Meow, everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everybody, Cantonese Cat here. I'm gonna look at CleanSpark here. I've never seen a chart so clean. If you pull out the Ichimoku cloud, it looks like it's just been stuck in a range between the Tenkan and the Kijun after the bullish Tenkan Kijun cross that had happened back here in February 2024. And it's stuck underneath the monthly Ichimoku cloud, and is also stuck above the Tenkan and Kijun lines down here after this bullish cross. It's very nice support. It's forming a very nice bull flag over here, and the volume during this bull flag has also been declining. Very nice look to it. A lot of energy is being built up. It's probably going to end up blowing really strongly one direction or another once this consolidation is over. Now, if you ask me which direction it's going to be, you know what I'm going to tell you. Like, it's a bull trend, right? It's just been forming nothing but higher highs and higher lows. And over the last year and a half, you really see that a lot of the retail has really been, declining in terms of the percentages. You can see that the wells have been just kind of slowly increasing over time. Although the month of March, April, and May, as well as for the month of June, you can see that there's a little bit of declining well percentages. But I think that might be because you have a lot more traders that are trying to trade the range. As you can see, increasing proportion of yellow over here. I think you just got a lot more traders that are trying to trade this range over here and having a great time buying the bottom and selling the top of the cloud until it doesn't work anymore, until it breaks out of this range, which after about 4 or 5 months of consolidation, it could be happening soon. It looks like a very, very nice consolidation bull flag over here, doesn't it? If you look at, just to kind of finish up, you look at the whale behavior over at the weekly chart, you can see that the whales are still in, right? This consolidation over here, it does show like there's a lot less whalish momentum, but it always happens this way on smaller time frame until the next breakout, right? Like over here, it happened in a smaller time frame where whale is just like, they're actually pretty sneaky. I think they've actually been accumulating around this range over here, to be honest. Like these green candle over here, like that's behind the scene, kind of buy over here. Whales set the floor price, traders cause volatility. What you're seeing here is we're basically having this consolidation. The whales haven't really left yet. There's still more whales than retail. And overall, the trend is still up, right, over the last year and a half, right? But you're going to have period consolidation where it looks like whales might be leaving. But the reality is price is just basically stuck in a range. On the monthly, you can see, as I show you, it's stuck behind the cloud, as well as the Tenkan and Kijun lines down here. And on the weekly, it's just been stuck between the Tenkan and Kijun lines. It's just forming a big range over here, and traders are having a great time until they don't, until they might regret selling the top of the range when it goes a lot higher. And institutions have also been very, very happy about this range. They also very, very much like to buy at the bottom of the range over here to provide some support. And as you can see, the institutional accumulation for CleanSpark has been up to close to about 50% now. And you can see also for the month of June, as far as you can tell, they just keep on accumulating. And it just looks like the whales just want to push the stock up higher when they are ready to do so. What is happening right now where we're at the bottom of the range? We wick down underneath the weekly Tenkan, but we're finding support right smack here at 15.57 is going to be the Kijun line. The red line's the Kijun line. 15.57 is going to be a weekly Kijun, right? Is there any confluence on the other, time frame? If I look at the 2 week, not really. If I look at the monthly, not really. But on the weekly here, that's kind of where it is getting stuck at between this range, right? So, from yesterday, I was saying, I was hitting around like 17.5 or higher, but it's just getting at the top of the range. We're still not broken the range quite just yet. And sure enough, the week closed at the bottom of the range right down here. So we'll see. It's been causing a lot of people a lot of anguish because price has just literally done nothing when a lot of people who entered the stock really thought that CleanSpark is just going to keep going from like, $3 up to like, 25 without any cool down. And so, it ended up cooling down for a few months. Hey, who would have thought that? Who would have thought that? No one. Nobody. It should just keep going to the moon, right? It should just push through the cloud and just go to like $70 within just a matter of a few months, right? It doesn't work that way. It doesn't have to work that way. And if you're not satisfied with the result, and if you're thinking, hey, you're skeptical about what I'm saying, then leave the stock. Or if you're a trader, you think that the range is going to continue to happen forever, then keep trading the range. But right now, again, price just got way too far, way too fast outside of Bollinger Band here. And it's just been cooling down here inside of Bollinger Band for about 3 months or so, which is not unreasonable for some cooling down after such a big, strong bull trend over here that has happened, right? On the weekly, you are really starting to kind of see that price is continuing to backtest this bull market support band. And you can see that this is a very common theme here for a lot of these different miners, where they're just kind of stuck at the bull market support band, including CleanSpark. And you also have the weekly Bollinger Band getting a little bit squeezy. This tells you that, hey, I think this ranging might be over soon, and you might end up having a pretty strong move one way or another. Is it going to be up or is it going to be down? We will find out pretty soon, but that's kind of what I'm seeing here as well. Now, if you're asking me in terms of what other targets there could be, if you think that it's going to end up going up higher, what happens next, right? I'm going to pull up a 2-week chart here. You can also see here too, in addition to the Ichimoku Cloud range I was showing you, price is also kind of having a hard time breaking above this Fibonacci level here at the 0.382, and it's been trying to just break above, but it really looks like it wants to break above. Look at all these very nice wicks over here. It's just been pushing up. Not a whole lot of retail left here for the 2-week chart. So this is a pretty nice look over here. Now, price basically just kind of stuck here at this arc over here. It would be nice to see it break above this 0.382 and also re-challenge the 0.5 over here around $22. And if it was able to break back above and break this resistance up here around 27, you're really talking about price potentially going up a lot higher to even like to the top of these arc over here, or the angle over here, which is actually going to be maybe a little bit more confluent with the monthly Ichimoku Cloud. You're talking about maybe price could potentially hit up some of these levels up here over the next few months or so, if we're able to break out this range, if it goes up higher, which I think there's a strong possibility that it might end up doing that. But that's kind of what I'm seeing here in terms of targets. How high would the cycle go where you got to break through all these stuff over here in the 20s, 22, 27, right? And once it's able to break back above, if it can re-challenge its previous high over here around $42, then you're really talking about some of these higher targets up here, potentially the 60, 100, or maybe even higher at this horizontal line over here, 135, right? Use your imagination. I'm not saying that it's necessarily going to be all hitting all these, but all of these are a possibility in terms of what could be happening. One last thing, look at the RSI. If price push up, you might initially encounter some bearish divergence, so you might have a little bit of a harder time kind of push up, but all it takes maybe is just like a couple of really strong parabolic candles for you to really cause this bearish divergence to be negated. The entire stock really hasn't been all that overbought, to be honest, even during this parabolic bull trend from like $1.75 all the way up to like $24 or somewhere around there. The monthly RSI is really going to go to like less than 70, like around 69 or something like that. So I still think that there's probably still a lot more room for it to go up. Again, Bollinger Band also hasn't shown any exhaustion, right? Naturally, I think it's going to end up gravitating price up back to the upper Bollinger Band, and the Bollinger Band could continue to expand, so you might end up hitting some kind of resistance up here around like 22 or so. But I do think given enough time, like some of these higher targets could be hit, and we'll see whether or not it does or not. I'm certainly positioned in a way that to capture any potential move up over time. But if you're a trader, enjoy it while you can. That's all I have to say about that. with Mara. Mara is giving us a little bit of a different picture here. If you look at Mara, you can see that, again, this is a monthly chart. You can see that, yeah, there's a little bit of weakening of whales over here too, doesn't it? I keep on drawing parallels between this area over here, consolidation for about 6-7 months now. Very similar to consolidation period over here between July, August, and September, and October around 2020. I see a lot of similarities between these two areas. And during this consolidation, whales could be just cooling off, and they could be hidden and can still be accumulating. You would not even know about it. A lot of times, they're just really tricky. But a couple of things, you look at the markers here, again, Ichimoku cloud tells you there's a positive Tenkan-Kijun cross over here. And after crossing, I spent about a couple of months kind of stuck underneath around this range over here. Kind of like how I spent a couple of months underneath after the cross over here before the breakout, right? And when it breaks out, initially it might get rejected here at the Ichimoku cloud, but it can keep on breaking out if things get pretty bullish over time, right? You have a bullish cross over here. It tells me that most likely the bull trend is going to be pretty strong when it kicks on. We'll see. Like, you might want to take profit a lot here around like $42. A lot of traders will, but we'll see whether or not we end up breaking through the cloud, kind of like we did last time during this last cycle over here, right? If you also look at other whale watching in other time frame, you can also see that the weekly time frame, you can see a little bit of declining of whales, but they're still in. Like, they haven't really left. Like, this is not like over here you're talking about. The overall trend for the last year and a half has really still been kind of going up in terms of whale accumulation, and retail has still been going down on the retail presence, right? And we also have had something very, very bullish that happened, which is high volume breakout of the weekly Ichimoku cloud. And right now, full surprise, might just kind of want to back test the cloud, or maybe you might not even end up doing that before going up higher, right? And the whales are still in, which is very, very important. Now, the problem with Mara as to why it's kind of stuck is because it's also stuck in a range. I'll show you what is getting stuck on with the Fibonacci level. But here, just look at Ichimoku cloud. Like, it's getting stuck underneath 20.63 in multiple time frames. On the 2-week over here, it's getting stuck around 20.63. So it's just stuck in range. Even on the weekly chart, you can see that it's stuck between the blue line over here and the red line over here. It's just stuck in range. It really needs to perhaps even get to the top of the cloud over here, maybe bounce, see whether or not you're able to push back above the red line over here. So it's not going to get stuck in this range anymore to go up a lot higher. I think it has bottomed over here. This is a very nice bottoming kind of, doji hammer bottom candle over here. I think it's bottom, and I think it needs to just build up some momentum for you to kind of push price up higher to break the range. But we're still stuck in a range, which again is not the end of the world. If you also look at the volume shelf over here too, you can see that, yeah, we're stuck in a range. There's a big giant volume shelf over here. But once we break about this volume shelf, it will probably end up going a lot higher over time. Now, going back to the Bollinger Band on the monthly, what you're going to see here again, you have a very, very similar morphology over here as opposed to over here, right? You have this kind of sideways movement over here to help the 20-minute moving average to crawl up. Is still kind of crawling up a little bit here. And during this consolidation period, you have the initial contraction on the Bollinger Band on the monthly, right? And it might be precipitating a bigger move whenever it wants to move to kind of break about this range. And I think most likely if it breaks about this range, it's going to end up going higher based on a lot of things that I'm kind of seeing. We will see what happens next, but if you look at the weekly, it's getting pretty squeezy. It's getting ready for a bigger move. And if I'm going to pull up the bull market support band, you can also see that it's trying to reclaim the bull market support band, even though it's been underneath the bull market support band here for about a month and a half or so. It's been trying to reclaim the bull market support band, back testing it, trying to find some good solid ground, trying to break about the 20.63 range that I was talking to you about on the Ichimoku cloud, right? So it's trying to break about that area to go up higher. But I think that it's getting ready for a bigger move soon because you're getting a little bit squeezy over here with the weekly Bollinger Band. going back to the higher time frame, I'm going to pull up the Gann and the Fibonacci levels to kind of let you know what to expect. Same thing here, right? It's getting stuck underneath this Fibonacci level here around 22.07. So there's a lot of key resistance here that is trying to break above before really running. And Mara is trying its best to do that, and looks like it wants to go higher, but it just needs that extra volume to kind of kick in. Right now, these downtrend and consolidation are happening on low volume. Sometimes all it takes is just a little bit increased volume, a little bit of whale presence for you to really push up a lot higher. And in terms of pushing up a lot higher, I was talking about the Ichimoku cloud on the monthly around 42, right? Which is confluent with the 0.5 Fibonacci level. That might be a resistance level right here that we might end up spending some time at. But it can also break above all these arcs and this horizontal line over here around 56 and go up a lot higher. Before it does that, there's a lot of resistance zone. Even currently, you have a lot of resistance zone around 20.63 to around 22. But when you're breaking above that, you're also going to end up challenging a lot of these high 30s, mid 40s, and the mid 50s levels. Once you're able to break back above all that, if you're also able to break above the all-time high, then you're starting talking about perhaps some of these crazy high targets over here around 1.618, which is around $130, or 2.618, which is $200, and it's going to be confluent with these kind of arcs up here if it's able to do that this cycle. But before it goes up here to these crazy targets, you see how much resistance Mara has to go through, right? I just mentioned all these resistance levels, and there's a lot of battles to get through before you're able to get to your potential destination, and you might not end up getting to your potential destination. So be careful and trade responsibly. Take profits at where you want to take profits, but that's kind of what I'm seeing here with Mara. Now, another stock I want to, one more thing too with Mara. You remember I was kind of showing you like the whales never really left, right? They're still there, right? And if you look at the Fintel.io data for Mara, you can see also the whales have still not left for the month of June, right? It's still looking pretty decent. Something has happened with Mara too, which was very interesting, is that BlackRock, for the file date of their 13G, you can see that on the day of June 7th, which is just yesterday on Friday, I don't know how reliable this data is. If it is, it's just an absolutely incredible development, because price went down 7.5%, but BlackRock has doubled up their institutional ownership from like 6 to 7% all the way to like 12.5%. Like, this is like, maybe they're doing it for dark pool, maybe doing it over the counter, and you're not necessarily going to end up moving the price of Mara up. But this may drastically reduce the supply of Mara stock, so it may not take a whole lot to push the price up a lot higher, if that is really true. Like, this is a pretty fascinating news if that's the case. There's also an account here on X that is a very good account. I recommend you to potentially follow this account. You can see that there's a lot of order that are happening behind the scene after hours for Mara. About 5 million shares have traded hands. Somebody bought it over the counter, right? So a lot of really kind of shady things may be happening behind the scene. They may not move the price of the stock quite just yet, but eventually it will, because it is disrupting the supply and demand dynamics. Another thing is, I also want to show, I can't show you here, but there's also a lot of short interest too for Mara, just like there's a lot of short interest too for for Bitcoin and Bitcoin underlying assets in general. There's a lot of short interest that's been happening for Mara, so I do wonder whether or not if you end up getting too many people off sides, and if the market makers don't want to pay for your shorts, that could, something fun could be end up happening pretty soon. Anyway, let's talk about a couple other ones here. I do want to talk about Bitfarms. Bitfarms, I'm just going to go through this one real quick. I like to call this exaggerated Mara. It looks very similar to Mara, but it just looks like whenever you have an outperformance on the way up, and you also have an underperformance on the way down. That's kind of what I'm seeing when it comes to Bitfarms. It looks basically the same. there's increasing in whale accumulation, maybe because Riot is buying behind the scene. But I don't think it's just Riot, to be honest. I think I think this might represent Riot buying Bitfarms, but I actually don't know what they're doing because, yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But yeah, you can see that Riot has been buying. You can see 12% ownership by Riot, and that has helped to kind of push price up higher, right? But yeah, and that can also be reflected here on what you're seeing here on the whale watching MCDX plus indicator here too. You can also see that both on the monthly and weekly that whale accumulation has been happening and the buying pressure has been increasing. Sometimes it doesn't really matter who's buying and what's going on behind the scene. All it really matters is more about momentum. And this buying has certainly been giving Bitfarms a lot of momentum going, so I'm not going to complain because I do own, enough shares for Bitfarms. The problem in terms of why you're perceiving that we have a hard time breaking above the current range over the last few weeks is because we're right at resistance. The resistance around 2.4 to 2.5 range. You can see that it's stuck right here underneath the monthly Tenkan, right, which is going to be around 2.4. And when price is trying to break back above of it, sometimes it can take a little bit of time. But I like the fact that it's trying and it's still a little bit range bound here between the Tenkan and the Kitchen here on the monthly, right? But wells are steadily coming in. This is a good sign. On the weekly, what is it doing? Well, it's pretty apparent in terms of what it's doing. Wells increasing, buy volume increasing. Price for Bitfarms went close to the Ichimoku cloud, couldn't even touch it, and it just ends up saying, yeah, I don't want to touch the cloud, I'm just going to go higher from here. It's kind of stuck between these ranges over here with the Tenkan and Kijin. This has a very, very similar look to Mara, doesn't it? Like, this is just exaggerated Mara. There's really not a whole lot of difference, in terms of the overall trend, although microscopically the CMR might be underperforming the last 2 weeks and everybody's kind of complaining about it, when Bitfarms has been a little bit outperforming the last 2 weeks. But you also forget that like Mara has been holding pretty well down in this zone over here, and Bitfarms just kind of went down like crazy over here for the month of May, right? So a lot of people are just kind of looking at the short-term mentality and they're not really seeing the overall picture. But overall, this is just an exaggeration of Mara, even though week by week it may not reflect it. On the Bollinger Band, continued expansion. Actually, for the month of May, it really kind of back tested the uprising 20-month moving average. It's been finding support, so hey, price went up as a subsequence, and you can see price went sideways, consolidating, and Bollinger Band starting to contract here a little bit. But overall, we're waiting for the next move because volume has been declining. And if you also look at the weekly, you can also see that you really have getting kind of tight over here on the Bollinger Band, right? And just like I was showing you on the other stocks that are Bitcoin miners, is trying to reclaim the more bull market support band over here. You see a lot of confluence between all of these miners and what they're trying to do. Is trying to reclaim the bull market support band over here. It looks like it's doing a very good job of it. Potentially it would reclaim it and just keep going higher, but we'll see. Right? In terms of looking at some of the other resistance and support level, I'm going to put up the GAN here and kind of show you what I think that it might be doing. If I just put the GAN here, I'm going to move it to like a 2-week chart so to give you a little bit more of a bird's eye view here. You can see that price is just stuck in a range. It's stuck underneath the 2.5 Fibonacci level. It's stuck underneath the monthly Tenkan, right, at 2.4. It's also stuck underneath the ARC, but it's also finding support potentially at this horizontal zone over here around 2.2, 2.3. And looks like it probably wants to get done with consolidation right around this area. The bears really want to try to hold on to this area over here around 2.5, because if that breaks, you're really talking about some of the higher prices like 3.8, 4.8, potentially some of these arcs up here around $5 and $6, $7. It was able to break about this arc this cycle. It could potentially go up to like 15 to maybe even like 24 bucks up here, right? Not anything crazy to think about when you think about prices gone from like 40 cents all the way up to like $4 within a matter of just about a year or so, right? So could this parabolic bull trend end up continuing? All it's doing right now is just been forming higher highs and higher lows, and all it's doing right now is just been breaking arc from arc and it's trying to backtest all of these things as support, right, when things get a little bit overextended. So I think there's a potential that there's some bullish continuation for Bitfarms to happen, and we'll see. I like the fact that the whales are coming in, and I like that the institutional accumulation is increasing. I don't care who's buying as long as there's momentum coming into the stock. And that's Bitfarms. Next up, I'm going to talk about CIFR. CIFR is a little bit more simple. There's really not a whole heck of a lot of price history here for CIFR. So if you just pull out the Ichimoku cloud, you can see a bullish cross over here, January 2024. Price is also kind of stuck in a range. It's stuck underneath the monthly Tenkan here around 3.95. It's trying to get above of it. We'll see whether or not we're able to close the month of June above of it. But right now it's just seeing some resistance here. It's been stuck in a range over here for like a whole year. A lot of energy has been building up. Guess what happens when it's stuck here during the entire time, right? Wells have been accumulating. They've been increasing in terms of their presence, right? And if you also look at the Fintel.io data, you can see right now it's only 20% of whales or 20% institution. But if you look at the trend change, it's very, very drastic in terms of what happens on the month of June or so. Like there's a lot of institutional buying behind the scene when the price is just kind of going sideways. I wonder if they're buying it through dark pool, over the counter. It's just a lot of shady, well hidden stuff going on here. But all these things will eventually have a drastic effect in terms of the supply and demand dynamics, especially whenever Bitcoin, if it ends up breaking its resistance, whenever that would be. I think whenever CIFR is able to break about this 5.5 range, it can go up to $10 in a hurry, potentially. If you also look at other time frames, like on a 2-week time frame, wells are increasing on the weekly time frame. Wells are kind of consolidating over here, but overall, if you just look from the bottom over here all the way up to the presence, it just looks like the retail have just been slowly declining. Trend matters more than just looking at what happens in the last few weeks, right? Whales haven't really left either. We still have approximately about 50% whale. If you also look at the Ichimoku cloud, it's telling you a very, very straightforward story here, where price has kind of, been very, very nice staying above the Ichimoku cloud over here. Whenever you have somebody who ends up going up, in price, you have increase in buying volume. Whenever you have kind of like a downtrend like that, you have declining volume. So all this is really telling you that there's a lot of reaccumulation that's happening. And the price kind of finally used high volume candles over here to get above the cloud here again after back testing. And this is a very, very nice bottoming candle. You keep seeing these kind of very nice hammer candles, a lot of demand underneath, right? Demand. Another very, very nice demand candle over here, another very nice demand candle over here, right? So you're seeing a lot of these demand candles, and all it's doing is just kind of back testing the top of the Ichimoku cloud after its breakout again, right? And the balance is happening on pretty strong volume. Retail over the last week has decreased, right? So a lot of these very, very positive things I'm kind of looking at here. Going back to the monthly, you look at the Bollinger Band, all it's doing right now, a little bit more consolidation, a little bit more contraction of the lower Bollinger Band. But the whole thing is, to spend a whole year on the upper part of the Bollinger Band is building up a lot of energy. Wells are increasing. So something interesting could be happening soon. If you look at the weekly, again, there's a common theme, right? It's basically been riding up on the bull market support band and still kind of flattened, pointing up a little bit here. And it's just like CleanSpark, Bitfarms is right on top of the bull market support band, and it looks like maybe the weekly Bollinger Band is getting a little bit squeezy. We'll see. Let me see the 2-week. Yeah, it's also looking kind of a little bit squeezy. Look at the 2-day. It's really getting pretty squeezy here. And look at the daily. It looks like something is about to happen pretty soon. It just looks like there's going to be a breakout to the upside or the downside. That's going to happen pretty soon. So a lot of people are kind of bored by this, but I have a position. I'm happy with where things are, and I'm going to end up staying in it for quite a few months and see what happens and go from there. Now, if you look over here at the GAN and you also look over here at the Fibonacci levels, it's basically telling you, yeah, it's kind of stuck in a range. It's stuck underneath the horizontal line over here. It tried to break out above. It got rejected here at the arc. but it's just kind of been basically kind of stuck in this range over here around the Fibonacci level, around the arc, and around the horizontal line over here, right? And also underneath the 5.5, very important level. It's been knocking on the door for closer to like a whole year now. It's looking, it's like knocking the door more and more frequent. So I do think it's probably want to break out soon. Whales have just been increasing throughout the entire time, right? I think this is probably going to end up breaking above that, and when you break above that, it's probably going to end up going a lot higher. Maybe some of the levels up here, maybe around the arc over here, maybe it's going to challenge its previous all-time high. Maybe it can go up higher to the next arc up here, around like the 40s and the 50s. It's possible, right? But you have a lot of resistance, a lot of confluence over here. You have to break this current resistance over here before we even talk about the next resistance, which is going to be around the teens or $10 and up higher in the teens. And if you're able to break above the $10 and up around the teens, then you're talking about some of these crazy targets here to end the bull cycle. If it gets up there, there's a possibility where if we're able to break above all these resistance, it could go up to the teens, and that could have been the cycle, right? Could get up to like 18, and that could have been it. But we'll see how it reacts as time goes on. But overall, the trend looking pretty decent here for CIFR, even though a lot of people may feel very terrible about it because they've just been seeing a couple other stocks that I'm going to talk about here real quick, but just kind of go wind shot and they feel like they're missing something. Well, you're not really missing anything, but I'm going to show you actually as to why I feel that there might be a little bit of a rotation from IREN and TeraWulf to the other larger cap miners here in a sec. Now you just look at IREN. I have a position in IREN, and it's been doing very, very well. If you look at the Ichimoku cloud, you had a bullish cross for the month of June. It happens. You have a bullish cross. Whales are coming in. Is this surprising? Can you actually look at institutional data and tell that whales are coming in? The answer is yes. Whales are coming in. You have institutional buying. So this is really to no surprise. I think I also saw a post by Urkel here too about IREN. Yeah, you see a lot of over-the-counter order after hours for IREN. This is a little bit shady, isn't it? Like somebody bought like 2 million shares of IREN after hours. This is something's happening. I don't know exactly what's happening, but something's happening, right? So we'll see what happens next. I have a feeling that something good is going to happen, but before it happens, you're hitting a resistance zone. I'm going to show you why I think it's a little bit, worrisome in the short term, but whales are in on the weekly. Like there's no doubt that is the case, right? And there's a lot of fluctuations over here on a weekly. Unfortunately, you're just going to end up having fluctuations, but overall, there's really no retail left, right? Sure, things can change in a hurry. If it ends up hitting a resistance zone, whales can end up rotating over IREN and go to something else. And next thing you know, you have like the red bar going down again. It's entirely possible, but so far it's got a really nice look to it. On the weekly, it just basically bounced on Ichimoku cloud. So it finally bounced off of the Ichimoku cloud and to push up higher. This has a very, very nice look to it. And if you also look at some of the other indicators, you just go back to the monthly here, pull up the Bollinger Band. Very nice support over here. This is one of the few miners. This is probably one that I actually do follow that's actually experiencing a monthly Bollinger Band expansion without any sign of contraction. Like this is expanding, and as it continues to expand, it's going to allow price to go up a lot higher because it's a bull trend, right? And if you also look at the weekly, try to see what the Bollinger Band is doing, well, it's good squeezy over here for the month of May. And right now, the energy is exploded and is exploding to the upside, right? Are we a little bit too far away from the upper Bollinger Band here on the weekly? Yes. So what does that mean? Well, that means we're overextended. If you look at the RSI here on the weekly, there's another potential, there you go, I'm going to expand this. There's another potential sign for concern, right? Every single time when the RSI gets up to like around the 70 range, it ends up being like a local top for IREN. Is this going to be the local top, or is this actually going to end up being the breakout and end up going up a lot higher? I don't know, but would it be the end of the world if you end up just cooling down, at least going sideways here a little bit, and rotate the funds out from IREN to other miners or to other stocks? That wouldn't be the end of the world, right? Do I want to sell here? I don't really want to. I can see why people would, right? Which is why you have a wick up here, because people sell at potential resistance. What are some of the resistance levels that you're looking at? Well. Let's look at it. The resistance level that so far is getting rejected at right off of here is around the 0.382 Fibonacci level from the all-time high here at the available price around November 2021 to the bottom over here. If you do a Fibonacci level, it got perfectly rejected here at the 0.382 around 11.4. Does it mean that price would end up just going down back here to back test this zone over here that has spent a long time trying to break out and finally broke out on high volume? Does it mean that you're having low volume back test down here in around the $8 range before going higher? That's a possibility, right? I don't want you to think that it's just going to keep going up forever, although there's a potential that if things really start to kick off, if Bitcoin does really well, and if liquidity continues to flow into it, and if somebody is buying over the counter like 20 million, some ridiculous amount, no, sorry, 2 million shares or something like that, ridiculous amount of shares, and if institutional accumulation continues to increase, right, then it could push through this arc over here. But I can see that, it's going to hit some resistance up here in the arc, maybe around like 13, 14, maybe around 16, 17. You also have another resistance up here around 22. And if you're able to break above all this resistance, and again, currently we're at resistance. I don't want you to get way too bullish, but it could back test down here. It may not, or it might just end up having like some bullish continuation, trying to break above these arcs over here, break above this horizontal zone over here around 22.5. And if it was able to break above all this, then you're really talking about the cycle potentially end up with somewhere crazy around the top arc over here around like maybe $38, right? $45 at 1.618. Maybe it hits the horizontal line up here around 62. And if it's able to break above these resistance, and no, I wouldn't necessarily count on it because it's just, you don't want to be like too irrational. But if things get irrational, it can hit the blue arc up here around like 3 digits. Possible, right? Do I count on that? No. Like, it might end up hitting some of the arc up here around the blue arc right here late on in the year of 2025. The arc continues to go down. It might end up ending the cycle right around like 72, or it might end up cycle around like around like 85, somewhere up here, and that would be it, right? Or it could end up just having to hit some of these targets up here, unable to break through resistance, and that would have been it, right? But right now we need to break through this resistance here first before we even talk about some of the higher targets. That's kind of where we are with IREN. But I do have a position, and I'm happy. I'm keep holding. I see some pretty bullish development happening. I think the cycle is far from over. TeraWulf. Wow. On the weekly, whales are coming in. Wow. On the monthly, whales are coming in. That does get you excited, doesn't it? Consolidation over here. Very nice ascending triangle look to it on declining volume. Whales are increasing over time. I mean, Wolf is basically hitting strong resistance at this horizontal zone over here at the top of this ascending triangle. It looks like it wants to break out, maybe back test before further bullish continuation. And if you're also wondering whether or not the Fin.io is showing you similar institutional accumulation, it is. There's everything is kind of confluent with one another. And the consolidation looked like it might break out soon, right? If you look at Ichimoku Cloud, something very interesting thing is happening here. It's getting close to, it's getting really close to a Tenkan Kijun cross for the month of June. And I wonder if we end up getting across this month or next month, depending on what price I end up doing. It might end up getting rejected from here in the zone, and it might end up bouncing back down here. That would be fine. If you end up getting a bullish cross over here, this could potentially push price up a lot higher, right? The bottom of the cloud is really around $15, which is something crazy to think about. The weekly is looking also very bullish. It looks like initially it was stuck inside the cloud, and it broke above the cloud on very huge volume. Very, very nice whale-ish momentum over here, right? So there's a lot of very, very nice things that are developing here for TeraWulf. Another thing to look on TeraWulf too, if you put the Bollinger Band You can also see that it's just kind of touching the top of the Bollinger Band here on the monthly. But just like IREN is one of the few miners that are actually going through monthly Bollinger Band expansion. Like this is literally an expansion over here on huge whalish momentum. So I think it's probably going to end up going a lot higher. And if you also look at the weekly, you see what's happening is that it's been squeezy for quite some time, waiting for a potential breakout either to the upside or the downside. And so far, the momentum seems to be pointing up. It seems to want to keep going up. It bounced from the bull market support band. This looks a lot more bullish than CleanSpark, Mara, Bitfarms, and CIFR here in the short term. But on the long term, I still think that all the miners are actually looking pretty decent. So it's just a lot of people are anguishing over their pain because their expectations are not well adjusted. But that's okay. I do want to pull up the GAN that I drew here to kind of show you where I think things could be. And I do have a Fibonacci level here, which looks absolutely insane because I don't think they're really even a miner back here in November 2021. I'm going to change the Fibonacci level here from linear scale to log scale and see if I can show you something a little bit more clear of a picture here. The resistance levels that you're experiencing, you can see that TeraWulf has broken out of this arc very convincingly for this week. Like it's very nice breakout above this arc over here, but it's hitting resistance zone up here at the horizontal line over here around 3.2. It's also hitting an important Fibonacci level here around 2.88. So I also wouldn't be surprised if we end up just kind of getting underneath this again for next month, because it's been serving as very important resistance here for so long now, for like half a year now. But it looks like we might be breaking above it on high volume. We'll see what happens if we're able to break above this horizontal line over here, which also end up getting rejected for around December 2023. If we're able to break above this horizontal line up here, where's it going to go? Well, it could end up going to 4.85, somewhere around here on the arc. $5 somewhere up here. It could end up pushing above to maybe like the $7 or $8 range up here. It could also push back to this arc up here around like 14, right? Can it go higher than that? Well, it depends on how impulsive it is in pushing all these resistance levels over here. Can it end up going something crazy up to like the 27s, 28s? Can it go higher? It's always a possibility. Do I expect it to do that? Why don't we just handle the price target with the resistance above one at a time and see how price react? Why don't we see what Bitcoin does, and why don't we see what IWM is doing over time? That's all I got for you. The 6 miners that I hold, updates for the weekend. I like the look for every single one of them, although a lot of them are still trying to battle their resistance. Even for IREN and WULF, they are battling their respective resistance levels over here. So it's important to have a little bit of realistic expectations. Traders are going to try to trade the range. Institutionals are going to try to come in and set the floor for the price for the cycle. So we'll see what happens. But so far, I am not going to end up doing anything cute and just rotate from one miner to another, or trying to take profits from from the resistance zone, trying to buy back lower. It's just too stressful for me, especially when Bitcoin is just right underneath the resistance that's been trying to break for a very long time. We'll see whether or not Bitcoin is really able to finally break above its resistance. And also IWM has been officially being kind of pushed down to the downside. I'm not going to say anything more than that, but I see more bullish things to come. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to this long video. Have a good one. Bye.